Well, welcome to our Planet Red working session on problem identification for field data collections based on the CP3 experience. I hope everyone has come prepared to engage in our conversation. My name is Bridget Anderson. I'm a GIS and Information Management Officer with the American Red Cross, and I've been involved with CP3 data readiness work, which I will get into details in a little bit more. So with us today, we have some other facilitators who will introduce themselves in a little bit later on when they take over the screen. But before we carry on, also, because we have multiple facilitators here, please feel free to keep using the chat and introduce yourselves and ask questions there, because in addition to our other facilitators, we do have a lot of people involved who have a lot of experience with CP3, as we see here on the screen, the Community Epidemic and Pandemic Preparedness Program. So a lot of questions can be answered outside even of the scope of what we're talking about with this today. And before we, really carry on, we just want to share some of our goals for this session. As we see here, the overall goal for this session is to present on selected challenges and problems faced within CP3 for field data collection and solicit input from all of you on approaches to these problems, shared experiences, solutions and tools or other needs. And then through this session, we should be able to understand the background of CP3 and more specifically its data readiness work, recognize the key challenges in choosing tools for field data collection as it pertains specifically to CP3, participate in solutions ideation to address these challenges, and then also finally have some tools to continue in the participation of this process. How we're going to do this, I've used the word CP3 at this point, and I'm not sure everybody's familiarity with this program, so we'll be starting off with just an introduction to CP3 data readiness and also some of the workshop tools that we'll be using. We'll then go over to an icebreaker to practice some of these tools and get to know each other a little bit for those of us who don't know each other in this session. And then we'll really get into the meat of this session, working on some of the challenge statements and ideations of solutions to this challenge, and then coming up with really a next step plan for this. We'll get the chance to work in some breakout rooms and have conversations around this, while also coming back to share what we've been coming up with in these breakout sessions. So that's our plan. So as we go forward now, I've said CP3 a lot, and we just want to give a background for what that means. So CP3 stands for, as we've been calling it, the Community Epidemic and Pandemic Preparedness Program. The IFRC has long focused on helping communities prepare and respond to health emergencies, and CP3 was launched in 2017 with funding from USAID to really scale up these efforts. The program strengthens the ability of communities, national societies, and other partners in 8 target countries to prevent, detect, and respond to disease threats and play a significant role in preparing for future risks. These countries, so there are 8 countries, and these are Mali, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, Guinea, Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, Indonesia, and Kenya. As part of this program, there are 3 key work streams that are kind of an option for all of these 8 countries. Workstream 1, as we see here, is preparing communities. And this is where communities in at-risk counties have an effective local system that detects and reports potential epidemics for early action. One of the key activities of this is CP3's community-based surveillance program. The next work stream is work stream 2, and it says here, preparing first responders, but this really translates into preparing national societies. So work stream 2 focuses on that national society is prepared to respond to epidemics and contributes to local and national health security. So some key work being done here is in supporting national society development, volunteer response team trainings, and support for some Red Cross school clubs in certain areas. And finally, we get to work stream 3, which is preparing stakeholders. So this is private sector and key stakeholders engaged in pandemic and epidemic preparedness. This is where this includes some media training, but this is also where our data readiness work lives. And not all countries, like I said, there are 8 countries, and not all of those 8 countries is doing every single activity in all 3 of these work streams. But 5 of these countries are working with data readiness in this 3rd work stream. These 5 countries that we've been focusing on with data readiness are DRC, Uganda, Guinea, Indonesia, and Kenya. Okay, so now another new thing, maybe, folks, what is data readiness and what does this mean in the CP3 context? So as we see here, data readiness in the Red Cross, Red Crescent movement context, data readiness is the ability of national societies to use quality and timely information in humanitarian operations and programs. There are three aspects to this data readiness. The first being data preparedness, and this is the ability to responsibly and effectively use and manage data-related tools, methods, and strategies. The second piece here is data literacy, and this is the basic skills, knowledge, attitudes, and social structures required for different populations to use the data. And finally, we have data-driven decision-making, and this is the ability to use data for decisions having reliably integrated analytic thinking into both design and implementation. So data readiness has a lot going on in it, and one program can't possibly address every single aspect of the data readiness, data readiness framework and data readiness needs. And so what CP3 has done regarding data readiness, the initial program really focused on accessing secondary data and making it public. So again, secondary data refers to data that is collected by someone other than the primary user. And for the CP3 context, this work was the creation of the data grid. And the data grid was identified 70 data sets that could be potentially relevant in the health emergency and response context. These were separated into four categories: geographic, health, risk, cultural, social, and national society. And a lot of that initial work really focused on, in these 5 key countries, we have these list of 70 potential data sets. And then our, in-country work really focused on finding where these data sets are, who owns this data, is it fully available throughout all the CP3 areas, and then making it available in open source platforms such as OpenStreetMap and the Humanitarian Data Exchange, so that we have a way to validate this information and have a way that people can really access it. So this was really at the key of what the CP3 data readiness work was doing, and still does. Some examples of this then in use of getting from that, we have this data, it's data ready, and then something happens and we maybe need this data. First example that we have is in Guinea. And during the first week of the appearance of COVID-19, the health partners of the Guinea Red Cross asked to have a map of land, sea, and air entry points in the country to prepare the deployment of volunteers and health workers for different activities related to COVID-19. So in this map here, we see that some of those data grid layers that were used, so part of those 70 data sets that were initially collected and identified and then made public, were some of those formal land entry points and administrative boundaries, and also the maritime entry points. Another example here we have is somewhat similar of a context and concept from COVID-19. In Uganda, data from the data grid has been used to develop and map products showing different activities in response to COVID-19, ranging from risk communication and community engagement activities at border entry points again, and major markets in Kampala. The data has as well as been used to generate visualizations on the locations of the different branches across the country to then put in context where the response is coming from. And finally, our final example is in DRC. A lot of work here has been done with those administrative boundaries. So here we see a map that was made where the actual health zone and health area boundaries were mapped and changed to better represent the local administrative boundaries, which could then be used to identify where people might access the necessary health facility. And the reason behind this is that the smaller the geographic area, the better that can be used in planning. This is a really great example of that, highlighted that the data grid data sets might not, we started with those 70, but those 70 might not necessarily be uniform across all of the countries. So for example, health area and health zone boundaries like this in DRC was not part of the original data grid data sets, but it became really relevant that not just did these data sets needed to be added to the data grid, but a lot of work needed to be done to update the actual administrative boundaries of those health zone and health area boundaries to best represent the reality on the field. And this brings us to the point of, a little starting to connect to what we're going to be doing here today, is that, in that ideal world, all of those like 70 data sets exist somewhere. They're completely full, they're completely complete, and then we just need to get them onto an open source platform. But a lot of the times what was happening is that we need to, the CP3 work needed to take that next step of actually either validating the data, collecting the data, filling in some gaps, fixing, like we saw here, some of those administrative boundaries. And so a lot of it is just needing to do a lot of field data collection to get on the ground and actually create the data or update the data. So that brings us to what we're here today to do. There have been like many different tools and protocols and ways to collect this data to fill in these gaps. And the work done with CP3 data readiness is a great example of a program in which, many of these tools have been tested and tried for actually getting out in the field and collecting that data. And again, in the CP3 context, that's to fill in some of the gaps of the data grid, but taking it out of the CP3 context, this is just generally like, how do we get out in the field and collect relevant and timely information and data? And so some of the tools that CP3 has used, this is from, the remote mapping mapathons where volunteers trace satellite imagery onto a base map, to having volunteers go out in the fields and update paper-based maps that then get collected and collated by GIS and IM professionals, to some of the digital tools, to analyzing street-level imagery. There's tons. And CP3 has done a lot and tested a lot of those different types of field data collection. And so our goal today is to dive deeper into the learnings of that field data collection process and take those next steps of identifying some of that. So with that, don't want to give too much of it away. So with that, I will hand it over to Carolyn to first introduce herself and then lead us through the next steps. I will stop sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Let's see. Share. Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Carolyn Yu. I am a tech exploration volunteer with American Red Cross based in California. So before we dive into our first activity, I would like to talk about Google Jamboard real quick. This is going to be a tool that we're going to be using throughout our workshop today. Google Jamboard is a digital interactive whiteboard, and just to keep in mind, we are going to have Zoom running in the background and use Jamboard at the same time. And with that, I am going to quickly, and my screen is being shared right now, right? Yeah? Okay, perfect. I'm going to quickly demonstrate Jamboard to everyone. So later on, we're going to be divided into teams and into breakout rooms. And depending on whether you're in Team 1 or Team 2, you get to navigate that through the frames here. If you're in Team 1, your work is always going to be in frame 1 or slide 1. If you're in breakout room 2 or Team 2, you can click on the arrow here, come to slide 2, and work on the second frame. On the left side here, this is the toolbar, and this is going to be your best friend for the rest of the workshop. We are going to be using the sticky notes a lot. Once you click on that, idea 1, you can write whatever you want to on it, save, and then it'll automatically form the sticky notes right there for you, idea 2. Or you can also change its color. And once you're done with that, you can make the sticky note bigger, make it smaller. If you want to delete it, just simply click on it, click and press on the backspace button, or you can click on it and press on the 3-dot button and delete it. You can also edit the sticky notes. Is that idea 2, idea 3? And you can also add an image with Jamboard. You can simply Google image search, hello world, and insert the image to the frame. And same thing as the sticky note, you can make the image bigger or smaller. And lastly, I'd like to go over the text box. You can write, this is a sentence. You can elongate the text box, you can shrink it, or you can make the text bigger. All right. And some of the things that you should not touch during this session are clear frame. That button is going to clear everything on the frame, and we do not want that. So try not to click on that button. And also set background. All the background images are set up for you, so you don't have to click on that as well. And same thing with the 3-dot button here, more actions. Yeah, and going back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so now that we've been introduced to Jamboard, we're gonna go into our first activity of the day, which is our icebreaker. So the prompt for our icebreaker is, this is year 2090 and you're living in a post-apocalyptic world. You are given a chance to take the time machine to any time before 2022. To keep you and your loved ones safe, you can bring 3 items from the year of your choice. What are the 3 items you'll be bringing with you and why? So there are 2 reasons that I can think of why we're going to be participating in this icebreaker. The first reason is to familiarize everyone with how Jamboard functions. And the second reason is to get everyone's creative juice flowing. It is important that everyone is okay with putting out ridiculous ideas out there. And that is why we have this ridiculous prompt with us today. So for this icebreaker, we're going to be joining our breakout rooms. I think we have that set up in the background right now. And after you join your breakout room, that is going to be your team for the remaining of this workshop. And with your team, you're going to spend first 3 minutes brainstorming your ideas. And for this brainstorming section, you're going to go onto Jamboard, which the link is going to be shared later on. And on this Jamboard, you'll be using the sticky notes function to put out as many ideas as possible in that first 3 minutes. Then after that, for the next 3 minutes, you and your team members are going to discuss what your top 3 ideas are going to be, the 3 items that you will be bringing from whatever year of your choice. And lastly, after that 3-minute period is over, we're going to come back to our main room and present our result with the rest of the team. This is the link to the Jamboard. And after everyone opens the Jamboard page, we will put everyone into their breakout rooms. All right, how did that go, everyone? Since we are running out of time, we might just go on to our next activity of the day, actually. But I hope everyone had a chance to get familiar with how Jamboard works, because that is something that we're going to be using for our next activities as well. And again, the point of this icebreaker was to get into the creative mindset, because so this will lead us to our challenge question of the day. This is the question that we are going to be focusing for the remaining of our workshop. So today's challenge question is, how might we effectively choose an appropriate tool to use during data collection? Tool selection is always an interesting process with everyone's previous experience and knowledge, and we would like to discuss it during this workshop and how this process could also improve data connectivity through the lens of CP3. And again, the point of the icebreaker is so that everyone understands that no idea is a bad idea, because one idea that you put up there could spark multiple ideas for other people as well. And right now, this is a stage where we want to just get out as many ideas as much as possible right now. Right now, we want to worry about the quantity, not the quality at the moment. And this also means that we have to suspend our judgment for the moment, not just the judgment towards ourselves, but judgment towards others as well. And for this activity, we are going to be using sticky function again, that we did similar to the icebreaker as well. So to answer, during this ideation stage, we're going to try to answer the challenge question stated beforehand in the previous slide, and we're going to put out as many ideas as possible in the next 10 minutes. And after that 10 minutes is over, we will come back to the main room and we will regroup from there. I'm going to open up the breakout room again. So the link on the slide right now, that is going to bring you to our next Jamboard slide. Well, hopefully everyone had a chance to explore different ideas for the challenge question. And it's okay if the ideas are kind of all over the place right now, because that was the whole point of this activity. And now for the next activity, we are actually going to look at the quality of these ideas. So for the next 8 minutes, we're going to go back to our breakout room and choose maybe top 3 ideas that we want to focus on for the remaining period of this workshop. Okay, I am going to open out the breakout room again, and amongst your team members, you can discuss what you think are going to be good ideas to focus on. Okay, it seems like everyone is back. Let's see. Okay. Yes. All right. Now that we have our top solutions / ideas that we want to focus on from the ideation stage, we will now move forward to the concept card stage. So with a concept card, you'll be able to have an overview of your top ideas that we had during the ideation stage and take them to the next step. And you get to think about the pros and the cons and the overall benefits of the solutions. So for the next 20 minutes, we will be working on creating this concept card. And after that, we will come back to the main room and present our cards with the rest of the group in the main room. And we would like to hear from everyone during this presentation, so keep that in mind. And we will open up the breakout room again. Okay, I think everyone is back. Awesome. Now it is time for the grand finale, the presentation. Okay. Does group 1 or group 2, do we have preference of who wants to go first? Okay, maybe group 1 can go first. And we'll just go in the order. Okay, wrong slide. Okay, so this is the concept card for group 1. We worked on the data type and usage. So the idea is that through organizing, sorting through the exact data that we need, we can also get rid of whatever is unnecessary. And for this, you would need peer-reviewed data. You would also be able to sort through data, maybe through text, maybe through specific identifiers. So we can sort of structure the data that is out there. And I will pass on to the pain points.
Okay, so for the pain points, we thought that getting a clear picture is sometimes difficult, meeting the needs of all and different stakeholders, troubleshooting your data, weeding out biased data, and well, I guess first determining that it is biased data, and then making sure that you have a plan for that, cleaning the data and sorting through text. So this is kind of the peer review process where you use keywords to look for the information that you're trying to gather.
Okay, and lastly, the benefits section.
Yeah, so by having this, establishing this clear picture and understanding of the exact data that is needed and how to be used, this will help structure the data so that it's organized data used in the future. This would also might lend well into a standardization of the process. And lastly, it's ensuring that you're really only collecting what you need and not overburdening others who are involved in the process at the providing the data, collecting the data, analyzing the data, not overburdening them by collecting unnecessary extraneous data and information.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Group 1. Maybe we can skip to Group 2 for now and then save the feedback section for the end. Okay, Group 2, take it away.
Excellent. So I'll start off. Our concept card, we called it Who Done It? And it was essentially just looking at, before starting any of the process of data collection, getting a sense of the landscape. So that's all I'll say, because we'll pass it to Miguel for the concept image and then Kene for the concept description.
Sure. So we came with 3 different images or trying icons because we consider that all of these are reflected in the description and pain points and the other chart process. So we decide to keep all 3 because at some point we all need to we all can use these different images. So we couldn't we didn't want to just came to one. As you can see, the light bulb probably is not very it's very small, but you have different faces, it's like different partners and created this light bulb idea with all coming together for one purpose. And as we can see in the other image, is like everything collecting data that we have from one partner will impact or reflect to the other partner. And again, who done it is the big interrogation mark, was like who is collecting what, and that's important for us. Over to you, Kenny.
I was actually going to request Crystal to do the concept description, then I'll take the pain points, if that's okay, Crystal.
Okay. Well, what you see here is also to understand the data landscape and how we are going to really use the data collection exercise through other existing process to define the importance of the information, and also how we are going to collect this information and the purpose. Of course, it's going to be to inform our decision-making process. Over.
Thank you, Crystal. So for the pain points, I think there's a theme there. So one is a lot of data collection is done through desk review, but there's a lot of time that is spent filtering through material that is not useful. So how do you live with that and work with it? And then we're asking whether there's a sharing culture. You do know that you might know that another organization is actually doing the same thing. So rather than you going to collect your own data, it'd be nice to piggyback off that other organization's data. But is that space, does it really exist? I don't think so. And then there's no immediate reward to this. It's the reward is a few years down the line, so it's a painful process to do. And then interoperability of 2 systems across individuals or institutions sharing the data, that's something that is concerning as well. How do you get 2 systems to talk? And of course, time. There's a lot of time that goes into doing this. Over, Bridget.
And then our next step of what is involved in impacting this process, we came up with 3 key things of doing this. First, just peer learning sessions on shared experiences. The next is tool documentation on recommended use and examples, because you find that many times the tools that we'd be selecting for the data collection process many times come with pretty good documentation on how and when to use it, so we can learn from those experiences. And then finally, going back to Kine's of the internet is huge, going down that of similar projects in reports or methodologies reported, or even if we have access, if it's a more local project, to where we are interviews with those individuals who are involved in that. And then over and finally, I think to Julianne.
Yeah, so because our first concept here was about seeing the landscape and what other partners have done that might be similar. There's opportunities to increase partnerships and collaboration, reduce redundancies because organizations are likely doing similar projects, so we can maximize efficiencies there. Also more effective data sharing, because systems are different, as we mentioned, as a pain point. So solutioning that together and coming up with more effective ways to share information and data. And then also ensures the completeness of data, because there might be components of information that one organization is sharing or collecting and can be shared with others. So it creates a more comprehensive picture. That is it.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Does anyone have any feedback for the opponent group at the moment? Or any questions, comments? I really like the concept name, Group 2.
That's compliments of Kene.
Brilliant, Kene. And I really like how Group 2 involved the peer learning sessions and on shared experiences part, because right, the more we share, the more we learn, right? That, and also that is the whole point of workshops like this as well, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think my main thought is, that kind of getting to that next step of these, of just like, and I think this is feedback for my group as well, of just like my wondering of what is like the what next of that is, how to make this like repeatable and systemized process so that these things then have the ability to get done. Because one of the pain points that we came up was with like the timeliness, and I think a lot of people have experienced that similar pain point of like wanting the best possible repeatable process for our landscape analysis of what data needs are, and but then getting to having that data need and not being able to like have the capacity or have the time to really go through all of those processes. And so I think my less feedback and more just a question for myself and all of us of what's that next step of how.
Definitely.
So regarding the concept image, so I was thinking, so according with the concept name, so I was thinking that you will put an image like the one Bridget proposed during the presentation, the introduction with the presentation. The image with the guy doing something with other people. Not that image. That image is up. It's ours.
Right, this one.
Group 1. Yeah. So on the concept image, there is you remember during the presentation of Bridget. So Bridget puts like an image showing one guy working with one IFSC guy working with other people. So I was thinking that who done it? So you would put that picture, because
but
it's
that guy was you, Christian.
Yes, Mama, exactly. Who done it? Yeah.
It took me a minute to get it.
Yes, that would be a good one, Christian. Awesome.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, yeah, we are kind of like pushing up against time a little bit here. So to close it out, I did just want to open it up to any final questions or comments. I know from this, I have a lot to take away and think about some of the next steps and how to apply some of this learning that I've done. And I'm really excited to look into the Jamboard and the work sessions from Group 1 after this as well, to learn a little bit about the next steps in the context of CP3. But just finally wanted to open it up to any final questions or comments from anybody before we say goodbye for the day.
Just thank you for the session. Really enjoyed it. And I really like the different creative facilitation and collaboration tools that you used. Found those really, really helpful. definitely going to be stealing some of those.
Oh, and there's some more things. Yes, organization. Wonderful. Well, then, just a big thank you to Carolyn and Kane for being here as well with facilitation. And then I also just put up my email address here. So if there's any other follow-ups or questions or want more information about any of the things that we talked about, particularly with CP3 today, please feel free to reach out. But then, other than that, it was lovely seeing everybody and meeting people. And thank you so much. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.